gentlemen, and welcome to episode numero 7 of the Hit Play Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Isaac Jimenez, joined every week, as always, James Harding. James, what's going on?
Hello, how are you?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm very tired.
Yeah, me too. I've been there too. But this week we get to talk about some really solid years in film, in movies, movie making, really.
Yes, we do.
I would say two of the more popular years in the 2010s, and that is 2013 and 2019, which are the 2014 Oscars, and 2020 Oscars. So without further ado, James, take it away with 2013, man.
Wahoo! So yeah, we've kind of brought up on the show before this idea that the Oscars has like slump years and then it has good years. So 2013, at least, was definitely a very, very good year. So specifically for the Oscars, the films nominated for Best Pictures were 12 Years a Slave, American Hustle, Captain Phillips, Dallas Buyers Club, Gravity, Her, Nebraska, Philomena, and The Wolf of Wall Street. I have not... Nebraska, Philomena, and Her I'm not really familiar with, but they were nominated nonetheless, so, they have to be pretty good.
Especially with a year like this.
A lot of those films. Yeah, a lot of those films are very, very solid. And I think the best place to start is easily 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Because that is such the clear winner for Best Picture for that year. And I remember that there were people talking about it being race bait. And I think the best reaction to that, do you know the YouTuber Your Movie Sucks?
I've heard the name. I don't think I've seen any of the videos.
He said that, talking about 12 Years a Slave, he said that anybody who thought it was race bait either didn't see it or doesn't have any appreciation for good filmmaking when they do see it. And I think that's probably true, because 12 Years a Slave is just a fantastic film on pretty much every front. The acting in it, the soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, and the directing. Let me tell you the directing. This guy, Steve McQueen, he's a British filmmaker. He hasn't made many films. I think he's only made 4. But he is quite the heavyweight when it comes to his skills in directing. He's a very technical director. So he's all about very precise and just the way he approaches shot composition and framing. Those kind of elements of his films are taken into consideration and thought through, and it works every time. He is such a fantastic, and he's such a smart director too. His other films include Hunger, starring Michael Fassbender, Shame, starring Michael Fassbender, and Widows. I don't know if Michael Fassbender is in that movie.
He is not.
He is not?
No.
He is in 12 Years a Slave, though. Michael Fassbender has a big role in 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, yeah.
And this film, and I'll say this. This is probably one of my more controversial opinions. There are a lot of people who confuse a film looking good for having good cinematography. Those aren't as... those are actually kind of mutually exclusive. And a lot of people will confuse the two. They'll say a film has good cinematography just because it looks good. And those aren't the same thing, in my opinion. But Steve McQueen is definitely somebody who understands cinematography. Him and the cinematographer for this movie was Sean Bobbitt. I don't know what else he had worked on before. Oh, he did Old Boy with Spike Lee, and I talked about how much the movie sucked. Well, anyway.
Well, that's awkward.
Well, no. He also did The Place Beyond the Pines, which is also a fantastic film.
That's the one with Gosling, right? Gosling and
yes.
Mendes? Okay.
Yes. And he also worked on Hunger and Shame with Steve McQueen in the past. So these two guys together, they are just absolutely fantastic. They are really, they're really good collaborators. They're very intelligent about. If you haven't seen 12 Years a Slave before, framing and focal points, like what's in focus and what isn't, those are two things that they are very, very good at paying attention to. And I would say, if you haven't seen it, pay attention to those when you're watching it.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie. In preparation for this episode, I watched this for the first time, and I was very, very blown away on how technically sound it is. Because when you have dramas like these, we kind of focus more on the content versus the content and the narrative versus the technicality of the film,
the craft.
Yeah. And I think Steve McQueen, like you said, is definitely a guy who said, no, we can't neglect that either. And every shot is so meticulous, the way it's framed. You could tell this guy was out there with a ruler and like trying to setting up distance between his actors and the camera and his shot borders.
Yeah.
And just the way it's so technically sound as a movie. And it is such a moving movie as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think some people might discredit this, but a lot of the emotion, I think, comes through the craft of the filmmaking.
Yeah, because this is a movie it's not afraid to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, Steve McQueen is a bit of a hard ass. He will definitely make you feel as uncomfortable as he possibly can in all of his movies.
Like that scene when, minor spoiler alert, or actually kind of a major spoiler alert, but that scene when Solomon is being hung, and he's up there for hours. And
I remember,
and it's long
just like
takes.
This 4-minute shot of him just standing.
It is brutal. It's like, it's at least 2.5-3 minutes long, of just him and you can hear even too like him choking on his own breath and like you can see his feet barely touching the ground, and you're just like, God, man, like make it end. And then when he's finally cut down, you also feel that relief.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we feel that emotion through that technicality of the movie.
For sure. Yeah. So easily, I think that was the clear winner for Best Picture.
I think so too. I think I was very much in the camp of Wolf of Wall Street, but after watching this movie, I think I would agree with that.
Few years too late, but yeah, you come around.
Well, 2013, I was like 16 when I watched these movies, so, I was kind of an idiot.
Weren't we all when we were 16? Now, here's an interesting decision, and this is focusing on the Oscars specifically. Alfonso Cuarón won Best Director for Gravity.
Yeah, this is not a common occurrence where the Best Director doesn't win Best Picture. Usually Best Director is an indication of who's going to win Best Picture, but that was not the case this year.
And what I think is funny too is I think, not to say that Gravity is a bad movie, but I think Cuarón won entirely on technical ability because the entire film was these incredibly meticulously planned out long takes in all CGI environments. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely one of those movies where you could tell that there was the story and then there was the technical side of it. And I feel like because the technical side loomed so large over the film, they probably gave it to him just because they were like, the fact that you could command that.
Pull this off.
Yeah. So, it's a good movie nonetheless. I like Cuarón, but in terms of the complete package, Steve McQueen is head and shoulders above most people working today. For sure. In my opinion.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
I love his movies. So that is the winner for Best Picture. and I guess also the winner for Best Director. In terms of the other movies that were nominated, there was American Hustle, which was directed by David O. Russell, and yes, that rhymes.
You think that was intentional?
Not at all, no. David O. Russell is a very, very interesting character of a director because he's always been this super independent, driven guy, but he's never really had like a lot of success, I want to say, until I think it was he directed Silver Linings Playbook, and that was in 2012. So yeah, no, The Fighter. Did you ever see that movie, The Fighter?
That's the one with is it Tom Hardy and Joe Edgerton?
No, it's Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. What am I?
Yeah.
Oh, that's another fighting movie.
But from like The Fighter onwards, he had The Fighter, Silver Linings Playbook, and American Hustle, and he was just kind of on a tear. It felt like every year there was a David Russell movie. It was a little egregious, nonetheless, because the guy is he makes a certain kind of film. He really likes wacky characters and wacky plots, but he'll do it all with a complete straight face. And it's not my cup of tea. He's also known for being a bit of a dickhead, but nonetheless, he got his time in the spotlight. I mean, I haven't heard anything from him since American Hustle, so who knows what he's been up to. But people who like were really into independent films in like the 80s and 90s are like, David O. Russell, that's the guy who did this really obscure film. And like to see him kind of make like a second wind in his career, I guess, is probably pretty nice for him. Not that he was really doing good movies, in my opinion.
American Hustle is the third film ever to lose all of its nominations at the Oscars. You want to
I
guess
cannot
what the
think
other
of
two are?
anything more on brand for David O. Russell.
Do you want to know what the other two are?
What are the other two?
Gangs of New York and True Grit.
Huh.
So, semi-good company?
Semi-good company, yeah. The Coen brothers and
Scorsese?
Scorsese.
Yeah.
Wow, it really lost everything it was nominated to. That's
Nick.
hilarious.
Yeah, it had 10 nominations. Tied with Gravity, excuse me.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't win a single one.
That's pretty funny. Not that the Oscars, like, in my opinion, I don't care about them at all. Like,
Sure.
in terms of what the award is supposed to mean.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't mean anything at all.
No.
But I still think that's pretty freaking funny. To be
Do
nominated
you think
for
they would throw
anything
him a
not-
bone, right? Like, I don't even know. Like, costume design?
Yeah.
Something?
Hey, it takes place in, like, what, the 70s or something? So it has some pretty good costumes in it.
I think so. Yeah, it was
Has the
nominated
whole
for costume
groovy
design
vibe. Oh, well, there you go.
and production design. So, could have won at least one of those, right? Come on, Academy, throw a bone to my boy.
No, he doesn't deserve it. Now, here's a film that I do really want to talk about. Speaking of gangs in New York, Martin Scorsese and The Wolf of Wall Street. So, for starters, this is the man's 23rd film.
He
That's
pumps
insane.
them out. He pumps them out, man.
He-
That's the
doesn't
Jordan
stop.
number.
Shut up.
Say what you want about Scorsese and how, at times he can be a little formulaic and whatever other criticism you have of him. The man just likes to make movies.
Yeah.
And I think
He
we
does.
have to appreciate that. Even if it's not your cup of tea, the kind of movies he makes. Which I'm not saying you specifically, just, to the people.
The royal you.
Yeah. You have to respect that he just loves to tell stories at the end of the day.
I think the big concern with Scorsese, and this is actually where I think he has succeeded, is it's hard to tell whether he has Steven Spielberg syndrome, which is just kind of he's won the Oscar and then he just kind of gives up and makes whatever story he feels like. I don't feel like he has that sometimes where I'm like, oh, there's Scorsese making Hugo in silence and just whatever he feels like.
Hey man, you back off Hugo.
But then he has movies like The Wolf of Wall Street where you're like, this dude is still kicking and he still has it.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? That he went from, I think he went Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, and then Irishman. And it's like, what? It's like you hit a super duper high to a super duper low, and then you went all the way back up.
Pretty much back to another high, yeah. Which, I mean, maybe it's just because the kind of stories he wants to tell are just good stories. No, not saying anything about Steven Spielberg specifically about that, but
yeah, we can call him Steven Spielberg. It's okay.
What I really think is interesting, though, is just for the kind of movie that Wolf of Wall Street is, for it to be as successful as it was is ludicrous. Because if you looked on paper that it had such just a killer runtime of 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was minute to minute filled with just sex and drugs and swearing and even violence. You would be like, who would we even want to see that for 3 hours?
It had the record at one point for most F-bombs.
That's hilarious.
I think it was like 2 point something per minute. Or 2 point something per second or something like that.
Jeez. That's unnecessary. Nonetheless, for it to still be like a big, like I think out of all the films nominated, Wolf of Wall Street is probably still the most referenced out of all of these to this day.
Oh yeah, yeah. It doesn't help that Leo has the meme face. Like he's all of his movies are memed on.
I know, pretty much. Poor guy. He's just become a meme actor at this point. Nah, he's still good. I actually kind of think because it's so long and it's filled with so many ridiculous, like individual little storylines in it, I think that it was probably really what kept it together, as opposed to just being one super, super long story like the Cough Cough Star Wars movies have been. This movie is actually, I would describe it more as like almost vignettes, just like little stories pieced together throughout time. And I think like each individual one is what keeps people, interested in it. And
I think the fact that it's so funny.
Yeah.
At least the first half.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting serious, and you're like, But
there are just so many memorable scenes and lines.
Yeah. Like you could tell anybody, hey, you remember this scene? And like this is probably one of the only movies that I know scene for scene. Maybe not necessarily the order they go. But I think I could name every scene in this movie if it really came down to it. And this is a 3-hour movie, which just shows you, A, how many times I've seen it, and B, just how memorable it is for me to want to go back and watch it so many times.
I know, seriously, yeah.
Because it is a really, forget all the sex, forget all the drugs, forget all the swearing. It is still a good movie.
Yeah.
And I remember that being a common review of the movie when it came out, and it still holds true to this day, was, the sex and all that is bad, and I don't really care for it. But the underlying movie under all that it's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah. And what I was curious to know, and I did very, very little research, and by research, I mean just like going to the Wikipedia page for these movies. I was curious to see whether The Wolf of Wall Street, because it was so successful and because it's almost been like a cultural, like, what would be the word for it? Like, it's a part of popular culture at this point because it's been in so many memes and so many people know it.
Is it like zeitgeist or something? What's zeitgeist?
Yeah, zeitgeist is probably part of it.
Is that a word?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe just
word,
pop
right?
culture icon is what I mean.
Yeah.
I was curious if this film really made a big difference in A, the runtimes of movies, or the content of movies. Whether audiences or studios have become somewhat more accepting of
Longer
those kind
movies.
of elements in films. Yeah.
I would say yes, and especially, you know what also helps with the long run times is Netflix,
Yeah.
because you no longer have to sit in a movie theater for 3 hours at a
Yeah.
time and watch the
Yeah.
whole movie front to beginning. You can, because I remember talking to people about Irishman, which is 3.5 hours, which is ridiculous if you were to release this 20 years ago. But people were like, yeah, I just broke it up into hour segments and it was still pretty good. And I was like, what? It's like, who does that? That's weird. But I think that's just the way movie viewing is going. And I think this movie, as well as Netflix, have kind of popularized that method of
Because
movie
what I
watching.
was specifically interested in seeing was if the average runtime for films nominated for Best Picture had gotten longer since this point. I think that would be interesting to see if that was true. Because then that would say that studios were giving these directors, because typically if you're the kind of director making a film nominated for Best Picture, you probably already have a lot of freedom in creatively what you can do. And I was curious to see if studios were allowing directors like that to have longer run times in their films. Guys like Quentin Tarantino,
So I did a quick Google search, so this is not like scientific whatsoever. This is not me back checking. This is not me like double checking my facts or anything, guys. So, but it looks like it takes a little. I mean, obviously, Wolf of Wall Street bumps up 2013, then it takes a little dip all the way to 2015, and then 2016 it looks like it bumps back up.
Oh, okay.
So I think I'm gonna lean towards no.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit of shame. Long movies are not that bad.
No, I don't. I
It
think
all comes down to
people are-
content.
Yeah, yeah, and then obviously if we're sitting through 3 hours of Spider-Man movie, count me out.
Or 4 hours of Justice League.
Or 4 hours of Justice League, just throw me off a bridge already.
Jeez. So, the two other films that I want to talk about from 2013. Very briefly, I want to mention the film that won a handful of films from the Best Foreign Language category. The winner was The Great Beauty, which is an Italian film directed by, I will not pronounce his name because I can't.
Paolo
he is a good director.
Sorrentino.
Yes, that person. He also made a film. His next movie was called Youth with Michael Caine in it, and I heard that was pretty good as well. This is it's a long film. I think it's also like 2 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. But there's kind of a tradition in Italian films. Like every handful of years, somebody will make a quote unquote, what does it mean to be Italian kind of film. Going back to like La Dolce Vita or Rome Open City.
Yeah.
And The Great Beauty is kind of in that tradition. And those movies always have just amazing acting and cinematography. This film is probably the best opening party scene, just of party scenes in movies. The Great Beauty. The first 5 minutes is probably the best I've ever seen. It's a long film, and it's in Italian, so if that interests you, knock yourself out. It is a good film.
Do they sit around drinking wine?
Yeah.
Nice.
Drinking wine and going to parties and writing books. That's what they do. And then I want to highlight the film that won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival in 2013. It was a film I've mentioned before. It's called Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know if you have heard of this film or seen it before.
You've mentioned it to me in passing.
Yes. It is, for starters, I'll mention that this is the first time that the Palme d'Or, which is the top prize, basically Best Picture for the Cannes Film Festival, which, if you don't know, is like this very big, important film festival in France.
Yeah.
There's a lot of film festivals. The Cannes is considered like the most prestigious of them all, even though I have admitted that awards don't mean anything.
A lot of movies premiere there at the Cannes.
Yes. Like Parasite, for example.
Yep.
This is the first film to win the Palme d'Or where they gave it to the actresses. The two actresses in the film, they awarded them the Palme d'Or as well as the director.
Interesting.
If that doesn't tell you how well acted and how intense a performance they give throughout this film, it should, because this is a very, very long movie. I think it's over 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But they embody these characters so amazingly that I remember when I saw it and the film was over and I was like, whoa, that was it? That felt like an hour and a half.
Quick.
And then I remember I told someone else to watch the movie and they watched it and they were like, that was 3 hours? That felt like an hour and a half. So the film does have some controversy. There are two specific things of controversy about this movie. The first is that there are, I believe, 2 sex scenes that are pretty long, pretty obnoxious. They don't have to be that long. They don't even have to be there, in my opinion. You could cut them out and the film would be just as good.
It's like 90% of sex
there.
scenes in movies, though.
Yeah, seriously, pretty much. So a lot of people kind of take issue with that, especially because there's arguments about it not necessarily being sex, but just being like, what's the word? Like, it's just gratuitous is how I think most people describe it.
Okay.
The other issue is that I think the director broke almost every labor law in existence in film while making this movie. If you read about the production, I mean, everything from just generally having a bad attitude to extended film shoots and just treating the actors like crap, and it was just not good. And it's a very well made film, but it's one of those things where after you watch it and you learn how it was made, you're kind of like, I don't know if I can really enjoy this again, knowing that he basically tortured these women to make this movie.
Do you think that's maybe why it wasn't nominated for Best Foreign Film?
It was not, yeah. And I was curious if there was a reason or if it was just because the way that...
Because to win the Palme d'Or and to not
just
be
have
nominated
to be shown. Yeah.
For Best Foreign Film, that's absurd. I'm sure it's happened before.
Yeah.
But
it might be
I don't know.
Part of the reason.
Yeah,
I think part of it is maybe because to be nominated, you have to apply to be nominated. Your country has to say, this is the film we are sending. So whether it was France sent the movie and the Oscars rejected it, or if
France never sent the movie. Yeah, that could be it too, yeah. I didn't think about that.
But it is in my opinion it is my favorite film. Like, if I'm talking my favorite movies of all time, probably top 3. I love this movie so much. It is so amazingly acted, so amazingly shot, and for a film that's basically just a romance, there is a lot of depth in this film. I mean, just looking at the Wikipedia page and scroll through themes and interpretations and style, and you'll just find that there is way more to this film than meets the eye. It is a very I've used the word meticulous multiple times so far. It's a very meticulous movie. It doesn't look like that because they shot 800 hours of footage.
Oh God!
It definitely shows. It's
800 hours.
Do with that information as you will. a little egregious, I'll admit.
Poor ladies.
But
800 hours.
I know. It's insane. But those are, of 2013, in my opinion, 12 Years a Slave, Wolf of Wall Street, and Blue is the Warmest Color are like the standout films from that year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely when you have those four, leading. Sounds like a pretty good year.
Oh yeah, And those are just for the awards. And those are great movies. And if you want to watch good movies, watch either of those three, including The Great Beauty. So those four. Some other films. These are kind of my honorable mentions.
Wait, before we go.
Oh yeah.
Before we continue, I got some questions for you.
Okay, what's your question for me?
So Despicable Me 2
Oh my god.
didn't win Best Animated Feature?
Let me check. No, it did not.
No, it didn't.
It did
Frozen
not.
won.
Frozen won.
Are we sure that's the right choice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Between those two movies, because The Wind Rises by Hayao Miyazaki was also nominated.
Yeah, that's...
And that was supposed to be his final movie. It wasn't, but that was supposed to be his final movie.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that was a good time to give him his Oscar. But nevertheless, I think Frozen...
Just
you
wanted to
can't
ask.
compete with Frozen, I think.
Another question. Are we sure Leo or Chiwetel? Is that how you say his name? Chiwetel?
Yeah. It's good enough.
Are we sure neither of them shouldn't have won Best Actor? I know the Academy usually picks actors who, go under some crazy physical...
Transformations,
Yeah, like some crazy physical changes, whether they grow a beard or they get super skinny.
Yeah.
Or get super
I
fat.
think Matthew McConaughey did both. He both grew a beard and got super skinny.
Yeah.
Dallas Buyers Club. I honestly, I still probably wouldn't have given it to Leonardo anyway. Just because, I don't know, it didn't feel like a best actor performance. It's definitely good.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of the Oscars, I think of like, it's hard to see comedies doing well in the Oscars, because
they
they take themselves so seriously. I probably would have given it 12 Years a Slave, but that's just based
I think I would have too.
Yeah. No, I definitely think Best Actor should have gone to the two actresses from Blue of the Warmest Color. For sure. They should have won Best Actor as well.
It should have been there at least.
I know. Yeah.
What you say is true.
They were robbed. They were snubbed. No, I'm joking. One film can't win everything. Parasite.
Yeah.
So that's just for the Oscars of the year.
Yeah, talk to me about some movies that you like that weren't at the Oscars.
Some good honorable mentions. I have a bit of a list, and there are some particular ones to highlight from this list. So the first one I want to bring up is To the Wonder, which is by Terrence Malick. And I know
Of course. Of course. Hey, speaking of which, you want to talk about Terrence Malick inspiration. 12 Years a Slave. I noticed it. It's there.
There's a little bit of that, yeah.
The editing style.
Yeah.
I was watching it and I was
amazing...
like, that's Terrence Malick.
There's a lot of that.
So you're educating me.
It's hard not to, like, anytime there's a long take that's shot on Steadicam, it's not hard not to see Terrence Malick in it. But
yeah.
So To the Wonder, directed by Terrence Malick. Also in this year, similar to The Wolf of Wall Street, but Spring Breakers, directed by Harmony Korine. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Is that the one with Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens?
That's the one, yeah, with Selena Gomez and James Franco doing his best riff-raff impression.
You like that movie?
I'm not saying that I liked it. I'm just saying that in terms of... Because it and Wolf of Wall Street, I think, are kind of in similar categories of, like, genre.
Are they, though?
In terms of, like, movies that are just about excess.
Oh, okay.
That's how I see them as being similar to each other.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just, I'm trying to be a good co-host and prompt you.
It's not that good of a film. There's The Place Beyond the Pines, which we had mentioned earlier, which is a great film. Very long.
Yeah, I still need to see that one.
You didn't see that?
I still need to see it.
I haven't seen it yet. France. He's a very good director. He also did Blue Valentine with Ryan Gosling, which is a pretty good film as well.
I like Gosling. He's a good mellow actor. When he plays a mellow role, I like him.
He only ever plays mellow roles.
Not true. He has
He did the
one
Notebook. You're right.
he had no. He had Russell Crowe. He was in the Russell Crowe movie, The Nice Guys, and then the comedy with Julianne Moore, Steve Carell, and Emma Stone. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm messing up your whole segment.
I don't remember what the movie is called, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Anyway, moving on. Another film I want to highlight is Upstream Color directed by Shane Carruth. He also did a film called Primer. I don't know if you've seen that film, but it's a really, really good time travel movie. Upstream Color is good, but it is definitely a confusing movie. Shane Carruth definitely does very purposely confusing movies, and if you're not the kind of person who is willing to sort through metaphor and symbolism, then I probably wouldn't recommend Upstream Color. But if you like that kind of thing and you like good just films that look nice, I would recommend Upstream Color for sure. Although Shane Carruth is not that good of a person, nonetheless, Upstream Color is not a bad movie. Also came out this year, The Great Gatsby.
I was just about to ask you about that one.
Yeah. Another Leo film.
Criminally underrated, I think.
Baz Luhrmann is not as bad as I think a lot of people make him out to be, in my opinion.
I think it's a good movie. It's enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it has freaking Tobey Maguire in it.
Spider-Man.
Who doesn't love Tobey Maguire? Me. Anyway.
You still can't. I'm still not over Daisy. I'm still not over Gatsby's death. Spoiler alert.
Everyone's read the book.
But, yeah, I was really surprised by that movie because I remember we were talking about it in English. I took regular English, so we watched the movie. We didn't read the book. And I remember we were talking about what the book was about before we watched the movie. And I was like, this sounds stupid. And then I actually watched the movie and I was like, this is...
It's a good book. I recommend it.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I need to get to the book. But I think I enjoyed the movie a lot.
It's not bad. Another good film from this year, Fruitvale Station, starring Michael B. Jordan.
That's his big break, right? With
It pretty much was, yeah.
It's Coogler, right? Is that Coogler?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Who did Black Panther as well, right?
Who does Black Panther? He does Creed, the first Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler. So I think that was actually his first big break too, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it was, yeah, actually. Because I think he had only done short films prior to that.
Yeah.
It's a biography film about... this isn't a spoiler alert because this is a true story about a man who was shot at a train station. It stars Michael B. Jordan. So it's kind of a sad movie, but nonetheless, Ryan Coogler I think is actually very good director, very solid director.
Yeah, I think.
And Michael B. Jordan, very good actor.
Yep, I would agree with that. Have you seen his new movie? With that
Michael
Remorse?
B. Jordan? No,
yeah,
not at
it's
all.
a Tom Clancy war movie. Just ask it.
The second you say the words Tom Clancy, my brain turns off and I ignore everything that follows.
If it's not the book, I don't want to read it or watch it.
No, especially if it's the books. Anyway, moving on from Tom Clancy. Just gonna run through these to not take up time. Pacific Rim came out this year as well. It's a
very good monster movie. Yeah.
The Conjuring, which is a good horror movie.
Greatest horror movie ever made, I think. At least this turn of the century.
Okay, I will accept that at least. Well, no, I don't know if I would accept that, but it's a good film, nonetheless. Good film.
Yeah.
And good horror movie. I think it's directed by James Wan, the only person who even remotely does jump scares well. Yeah,
the thing about that movie that surprises me is I always get caught every time. Every time I'm bracing for it, and I'm like, no, you're not gonna get me this time, you fucking ghost. And then it gets me, and I'm like, damn it.
Jump scares are usually done as fake outs. Like you think it's gonna be an actual scare, and then it's not, but it still spooks you. James Wan is the only horror film director who even remotely does jump scares well. Whether it's The Conjuring or Insidious, he's good. Yeah, technically sound movies. That's a very technically sound movie as well. Oh yeah, even for a horror film, which I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
and there's a
think
lot
people
of
give.
there's a lot of depth, and there's a lot of lore behind those movies. That movie, which helped branch it off into, the whole franchise that we have now. Also
For
incredibly
sure.
well acted. But anyways, let's keep moving.
Let's keep
Can I
moving.
throw one at you?
Oh yeah,
Snowpiercer. Did you watch Snowpiercer?
I did. I have seen Snowpiercer. Did that really come
Did
out
you-
in 2013? I
Yeah.
don't know if I caught that. Oh, that's
We'll talk
pretty
about this. We'll talk about the boy himself.
good. Bong Joon-ho.
Yep.
Yeah. No, Snowpiercer. That's a great film. I'll throw
Did you like
another
that
one
one?
at you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I like Snowpiercer.
Okay, because I think I didn't like it after that big fight scene in the middle. I think after that
Okay.
it kind of lost a lot of steam.
Well, it is about a train.
But it is still. I enjoyed it. I'll say that much.
Yeah. Nonetheless, both Snowpiercer and Blue is the Warmest Color are both based on French graphic novels as well. So shout out to those books.
Yep.
Random fact I have in my head for some reason.
Also, relating to our last episode, Snowpiercer is now a TV show.
It is a TV show. I wonder if you were gonna bring that up. Yeah, I have not seen the TV show, and I don't
It looks
care
like
to at
crap.
all. If you want shows about trains, go watch Infinity Train.
Looks so bad.
Don't watch Snowpiercer. The World's End also came out in 2013. That's an Edgar Wright movie.
Edgar Wright. Yep.
I don't hear it get brought up a lot, but it's a pretty solid comedy film.
Is that
for
the
sure.
end of his Nick Frost
Trilogy,
Simon Pegg trilogy?
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a name for the trilogy. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
I can't think of it either. It's some weird British name that I can't.
Mm-hmm.
As an American, it's illegal for me to know anything British. Elysium by Neil Blomkamp,
That's a very solid.
also a
movie.
good film. Very, very solid. That's a good Matt Damon film.
Yeah, yeah. That's Matt Damon's like thing. It's
Yeah.
action hero. At least
yeah.
at that time in his life, in his career. Maybe not so nowadays, but
And the last of my honorable mentions, I'll bring up Lone Survivor by Peter Berg with Mark Wahlberg. It's a very, very... Every year has a war film. And for 2013, I think Lone Survivor was the war film for that year, for sure. In my opinion.
yeah, it suffers from Mark Wahlbergitis, but
Well, a
Still
little bit,
pretty good.
yeah, for sure. But what can
Still
you do?
pretty good.
So those are my honorable mentions. Those are all fantastic movies. And if you just want film recommendations, any one of those, except for maybe Spring Breakers, I think is gonna be a good. The only two things I want to bring up after this. There are two things I want to do.
okay.
Unless you have a question.
Well, I was gonna bring up Prisoners came out in 2013.
Oh yeah, that Denis Villeneuve movie.
Yep.
That's a good one as well.
That was,
maybe
I think-
because I didn't see it in 2013.
I think that was
I
also
didn't remember.
his like kind of big break. Not big break, but he started to come into the mainstream.
Yeah, I would say so. I was gonna say Enemy before that, but I think I was like the only person who saw Enemy.
Well, they
in
came
the
out-
whole state of Arizona.
They came out the same year.
Year. Yeah. So
Damn, that's impressive.
both of those are good films for sure. So for 2013, I also have some dishonorable mentions.
Nice. Love this. Let's do it.
Yes. The Purge.
The first one?
The first Purge.
Yep. I think the second one is better.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the hype for The Purge was insane. And everyone hated the movie.
The problem with The Purge, and this extends to the sequels and even the TV show that they came out with, is the concept is so much better than the execution.
I think because the concept doesn't really hold a story in it, and so they have to create a story about it that just kind of has that like purge idea there to the sideline. And I think that's really where it suffers.
Yeah.
There's no story inherently built into the idea of the purge. It's just a cool idea.
Yeah, it's
I
one of
think
those
that's where this
ideas
is
that
at.
was in a boardroom meeting. And they were like,
Yeah,
does
for
anybody
sure.
got any idea? It's like, and then one of the interns just snorts a line real quick and is like, okay, so what if for like 24 hours or like whatever, we just don't have crime in the world? And everybody's like, shit, that's genius. Get that to script right now.
Genius. Yeah. I also have After Earth, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This is a Will Smith and Jaden Smith vehicle for both of them, actually.
You had me at M. Night.
I think that's enough you need to know about the film. It's this era of M. Night Shyamalan career. He has not yet, because M. Night Shyamalan kind of has come full circle from everyone loved him, everyone hated him, now everyone loves him again. This was in the period of time where everyone hated him.
Not everybody loves him.
Well, like they at least, they know.
I'm firmly in the I don't like you. I've never changed. His movies are stupid and they are not good. And they are a waste of time.
Speaking of,
I'm also slightly biased because he killed Avatar.
Yeah.
But it's whatever.
It's pretty much Unforgivable. Which, by the way, Unforgiven is a pretty good M. Night Shyamalan film. Anyway.
If you say so.
If I say so. The Lone Ranger. The Johnny Depp movie.
You didn't like that one?
Oh, I haven't even seen it because all I've heard is that it's absolute trash.
Go watch.
Did you like it? You want me to watch it?
It's good. It's a good popcorn. I think people got too hyped for it because it's Johnny Depp. It's good. It's it's not good. It's
not as bad.
It's a good watch. I'll say.
Okay.
It's entertaining.
Okay, well,
I think.
Okay. I will admit I have not seen it. I knew that it was received poorly, so there you go.
Yeah, I think it's overhated.
And the last of my dishonorable mentions is movie 43.
That movie is so stupid. I can't believe that movie ever got made.
I know. Seriously.
That is the dumbest movie I've ever seen. Can I throw some at you real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
Oblivion? With Tom Cruise?
Yeah, that Tom Cruise. I almost included that in my honorable mentions because actually
you should have.
It was a really good movie, but almost no one on earth saw it.
I thought it was really well made. I thought it was really good for a sci-fi movie.
For that kind of style of sci-fi, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now You See Me?
I haven't heard good things about that film, so I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't heard good things about it?
I have not heard good things at all.
Okay. Interesting. That's another one I enjoyed.
Okay. Well, you're allowed to enjoy what you want to enjoy. You're allowed to have bad opinions, Isaac. It's okay. We forgive you. All right. To wrap up the year of 2013.
Wait, one more dishonorable mention.
Okay.
Last one, I promise.
Okay.
Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. Okay, I'm done. Let's go. Moving on. Wrap up.
Your vendetta against the Percy Jackson movies will never end.
We're getting a TV show, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. The In Memoriam for the year. Just some names to throw at you. We'll start with one who I think you will be personally affected by, James Gandolfini.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a Sopranos, man. That's greatest TV show of all time. He was the greatest character actor, at least on TV, till the 2010s, I would say. So
yeah,
losing him was a big
Bad.
loss. Yeah, losing him was a huge loss for the industry, and we still miss him.
Paul Walker.
That was in 2013.
Yeah.
Damn. It feels like it was 4 years ago.
It's because the movies are still coming out.
I think Fast 6 came out in 2013, no?
No, Fast 6 came out in actually like 2015.
No, Fast 6, 2013.
Oh, I'm thinking of... No, because Fast and Furious 7 was his last film.
Yeah, but they were filming in 2013.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I'm confused.
When he died.
Because my timeline is from 2017.
Yeah, he didn't finish his
the seventh
his
film.
scenes.
Yeah.
They had to reshoot it. Damn, that's crazy. Those movies, they miss him. I'm not a big after Fast 5, I'm kind of just done with the franchise after Fast 5. I've seen 6 and 7 and 8. I don't care for it anymore. But you can definitely tell there's a big hole in that franchise after he died, which is
I
weird to
don't wanna
say
take
because
up
he's
too
not
much
even
time.
like he's
the
not even
main character.
he is one of the main characters, but he's not even like a great actor.
Yeah, and he's not even like in a lot of the films outside of the Fast and Furious movies either.
Yeah, so
Nevertheless, all right. Not to make this too long, but Elmer Leonard, he's a writer. He did 310 to Yuma and Get Shorty, which are good stories that ended up being good films. Peter O'Toole, who was a English actor in things like Lawrence of Arabia. We have here, who else died? Roger Ebert and Shirley Temple.
the critic himself.
Harold Ramis, who did Ghostbusters. And the last one I'll mention, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, he died. He had one last scene to shoot in Hunger Games, and he died before he could film it.
He's one of those actors who mostly I think did like supporting actor roles. But
yeah, we've talked about him.
Yeah,
that we think he's
better
like
than most actors in general.
We think he's a good side character for.
If you love like Paul Thomas Anderson movies like The Master or Punch Drunk Love, he's just amazing. 2013, it was a pretty solid year, and I've talked about it for almost an hour. So you have the next hour all to yourself, Isaac.
Oh man, where do I go from here? So my year, and it's a year that is near and dear to my heart because I've watched almost all of the Best Picture nominees. 2019. I think 2019 will go down one of the most memorable years probably of the turn of the 20th century or the 21st century. Since the 21st century, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm sleep deprived.
Do we though? Yes, we know what you're trying to say.
In this century, it will go down as one of the more memorable years. I'm not saying it's the most memorable because there's, obviously 2007, my personal favorite 2008, and other years that we can talk about. But
I mean, just the fact that it's the 92nd Academy Awards and they're still like breaking their own records for like the first film from this country to do this or the first person from this country to do this.
Yeah, Parasite. Minor spoiler, but Parasite, first ever foreign language film to win Best Picture, and I think Best Director.
And
right,
it won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Foreign Film.
Yeah, I think he went home with 4 awards.
Yeah, because he won Best Screenplay as well.
I don't even know where to begin. Parasite, it is such a master class in how to edit film.
That's interesting. I have not heard a lot of people talk about the editing in Parasite.
Which is weird, right? Because I think the editing, it almost kind of makes this film. That montage scene when they're trying to, for lack of a better word, commit biological warfare against the maid.
I think that's the best word you can use, actually.
Lack of a better word, and then I use a bigger word. But yeah, when they go all chemical warfare on the maid, that whole scene, I think it's like a minute and a half scene. That might be one of the best montages I've ever seen in a movie.
And you're not just saying this because you saw a YouTube video called Parasite's Perfect Montage?
Well, that reiterated what I already thought.
And you know what I think as well?
What do you think I am? Do you think I get my opinions from YouTube pages? What is this?
Well, I'll say this at least. Part of what makes the editing in Parasite so... What's great about it is that you don't even really notice it. Which is what good editing is supposed to do.
That's what makes great editing, right? Because for as much as, we had the year prior where Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Editing, but
Oh,
That is a
and
very
everyone just
noticeable editing
made
style.
fun of it. Yeah, I remember seeing all those videos of like why it didn't deserve. And I'll say this: what I wanted to say was for the subject of Parasite, for the actual story of the film, the editing does a lot of the work keeping you engaged in the film. Because
Because this is not a
boring.
this is not a short movie. I think it's over 2 hours or just around 2 hours.
Yeah, it's not a short film, but it's also for like I guess genre you would say it's kind of like a thriller, which is being suspenseful across like 2.5 hours is very not easy, and Parasite is very suspenseful. For
You have
the
no idea
entire
what's gonna
two
come
and a half
next.
hours. Yeah, and I think a lot of that work is pulled off. I mean, Bong Joon-ho is just an incredible director, regardless. A lot of that work is in the editing as well.
Yeah, and the camera work in this movie too is. There's that one scene when I actually saw this shot at the Oscars but you know how all the kids are on the stairs and the dad's on the stairs and they're all looking down and then it goes from them down into the basement and I was like, holy crap, I need to watch this movie because I actually watched this movie after all the hype, after the Oscars, I think.
Not bad.
And usually I'm like, did that movie deserve to win Best Picture? Whatever. You know, before then, my pick was 1917 or Once Upon a Time. But then once I saw this movie, I was like, you know what? I think they got it right. I think I'm okay with the Academy picking Parasite because it's such a refreshing story in a sea of. As much as I like all the movies that were nominated this year, we have another Scorsese gangster film. We have another war movie. We have another superhero, supervillain movie. We have Tarantino being weird with whatever Tarantino likes to be weird with.
Whatever he wants
You know,
to do.
so there's a lot of stuff we've already seen, and so for Parasite to come out and kind of shine in this year,
Yeah.
and to win Best Picture when it had so much going against it, it really speaks to volumes on how well of a movie this is.
Not
And
only
it's
that,
so
but-
rewatchable too. Like a lot of you watch a lot of Best Pictures and you watch it like Spotlight. I've seen Spotlight once. I don't really have a desire to go watch Spotlight again.
Yeah.
That's not to say Spotlight was a bad movie. It doesn't engage me on the rewatch. But Parasite, it engages you on the rewatch, I think.
Because there's just a lot in it. It's a very
Yeah, there's
dense
a lot
movie.
of depth. And I went into this movie completely blind. And I was just blown away on how
Yeah.
I never knew what was gonna happen next. Like I thought, oh, this is gonna happen, and then it just completely went the opposite direction. And I was
Now,
it's an experience for sure.
going back to the awards it won, it also won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yep.
It also won, I don't know if you know how the festival works, but the Palme d'Or is decided by a panel of judges. Parasite won by unanimous decision, which is rare.
Dang.
The only film to have previously won by unanimous decision was in 2013, and that was Blue is the Warmest Color.
Wow.
So it's not very often that films
This happens.
impress that well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie. You know what I also like about this movie? The opening credit, it says winner of the Palme d'Or. You don't really see that.
It just shows it right in your face.
It just boom. This is what you're in for. I was like, oh, okay, we're in for a treat then.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But
It's a good movie.
yeah, moving on. Best Picture nominees. Just a real quick list before I break down my favorites. Ford versus Ferrari, directed by
James
James Mangold. Sorry. Irishman, directed by Scorsese. Again, Jojo Rabbit, directed by. I wrote this name down in preparation to say Watiti. I'll just say Watiti. I know how to say Watiti. Joker, directed by Todd Phillips. I don't really give a damn. Little Women is a Greta Gerwig film. Marriage Story by Noah Baumbach. 1917, Sam Mendes, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Tarantino.
Pretty good list.
Yeah, just the best directors list: Bong Joon-ho, Scorsese, Phillips, Mendes, Tarantino. That's
I
how
would
you know
say,
this year
yeah,
they weren't messing around.
pretty. With the exception of maybe Todd Phillips, I would say that's. I mean, Joker was well directed. I know we both said that we didn't really like it that much. It was pretty well directed.
It was okay, but
I would call it well directed.
I'm not gonna sit here and be like, Phillips, he shouldn't have been there. It's whatever. But yeah, just that you name those five, I guarantee you, a lot of people would know those five.
Oh yeah.
I really don't
James
think there
Mangold.
was a weak nominee, and really, the main categories especially. But if you could just go down the list and look at the nominees, it's tough, man. It is a tough year for competition. But just speaking on some of my more favorites
I
of
have
the
a question to ask
nominees.
you.
Yeah, give me a question.
Here's how I'll let you segue, but here's your segue. If Parasite wasn't nominated, what film would have won?
So this is the problem, because for a year of film that is so good, that's like 1A, B, C, and D, as far as which one is my favorite. I'm leaning towards 1917 just because it has that. First of all, it's a war movie, and it has that human element, kind of that we see in
every year
Dunkirk.
has a war movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like Dunkirk, right? Where it's like the human spirit, perseverance, and always pushing on. I think 1917 probably would have won. Also because 1917, we'll start there. 1917. What a technical achievement to shoot a whole, I think, 2-hour movie in 2 shots.
Okay. Roger Deakins did win Best Cinematography.
He did,
And I
yes.
remember when we were talking about Blade Runner, we said that Blade Runner was not really that deserving of Best Cinematography.
Correct.
Similar to Gravity, how we think Cuarón won based solely on the technical elements of Gravity, Roger Deakins definitely deserved to win solely based on the technical elements of
Oh my God, this is.
1917.
I remember people were like, I remember reading about the one take, and I was like, is it really one take, or is it whatever? And then I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is actually one take. What the hell?
It has that kind of like a Birdman effect.
Yeah, and it flows so well throughout the film. Like the way the camera moves to position the actors and to frame the actors in the scene, and the way they move, throughout the sets and throughout the settings, and different locations all in France. It's absurd the amount of planning that must have gone into this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like a movie like this shouldn't be so good, but it is. And it's jaw-dropping. Did you think the one take was kind of a bit of a
Gimmick?
Because I've heard that complaint before.
Yeah, I kind of thought that it was at first. I definitely thought it was a bit gimmicky. Maybe that's just my own personal opinions of lawn takes, because I feel like they're not used as often as people think, but I think they get over complimented when they do happen.
I think a lot of the time the reason that is though is because they're not motivated.
There's just a lot of planning, yeah. And I would say, oh yeah, that's true.
I think people get tired of it because they don't, they see a one take and they're like, oh, there's a director trying to show off his, camera, or a cinematographer trying to show off his camera. So when you have a whole movie like this in 2 takes, it's like, what the, like, why? Why is that a thing? But I actually think it's extremely motivated.
Yeah. Well, for the actual story of the 2 people going to give the message, it's definitely to follow their journey through the battlefield is definitely motivated. I still just kind of feel like maybe I'm just like kind of burnt out on one takes, and I just want to see. Because here, I'll say this. What film is it? Is it Skyfall, where it has the opening scene with him in Mexico?
Yes.
And it's all done in one take, and you're like, the motivation for this. Why does this have to be in one take at all? You're actually missing things you should be seeing because you're forcing yourself to shoot it in one take. That's one of those examples where it's like, maybe you don't have to show off.
Yeah. It's another Mendes.
But it is another Mendes
film.
film. Okay, here's my question for you.
All right, give me the question.
Do you feel like Mendes gets the respect he deserves?
I think a lot of the problem that Mendes faces is because he did the Bond movies.
Yeah.
So he's kind of getting that, or he has that, what am I trying to say? It's like stereo. I don't want to say
Pigeonhole?
stereotype. Like a label. There you go. Sorry. Label of kind of a franchise director.
Yeah, I can see. Because I think one of the big issues with Mendes for me, he started off amazing with American Beauty and Jarhead. And then there's like a list of a handful of other films that like I couldn't even tell you I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bond films are well done. They have their issues, but he's one of those directors where I'm like, he's solid enough that I know he's going to do a good job, but people don't really talk about him as being like, in the conversation of best working director.
Yeah.
I don't hear Sam Mendes brought up at all.
It's because it's been such a long time since he's been in the Oscars too, right? I mean, American Beauty, I think, was the last film he was nominated for. It won too, I think.
And I'm sure Road to Perdition was also nominated for best cinematography.
And I think, I think that's what hurts him the most, because it's, as much as we don't like to, put a lot of stock into the Academy Awards, people do. That's why, Tarantino, his movies always sell really well. Nolan, his movies always sell really well.
It is mainstream recognition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Scorsese, that's why his movies always sell really well. Some of his movies always sell really well.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real thing to, I don't want to say casual moviegoers, because that's kind of a derogatory term, but to people who maybe aren't into to movies like me and you, where we'll talk about it for 2 hours every week.
Yeah.
I think American Beauty, to me, American Beauty is in my top 10 movies of all time. It's such a wonderful piece of work. Jarhead, the bits I've seen, it's a very good, solid film.
Yeah.
And then he kind of went on that dip, but then he came back with Skyfall and Spectre, which I think Skyfall is a really solid movie. Spectre was kind of but I think he's back on the rise with 1917, because this is a phenomenal achievement in just the technicality of film.
Yeah, for sure.
But moving on, speaking of Scorsese, we've talked about him earlier, but he is back, the man himself, with The Irishman, which this is such an emotional movie for it being about gangsters.
Is it? I have not seen this movie.
Okay. It's emotional because we are watching three of probably the three most popular... I'm going to say that. Three most popular gangster actors saying goodbye. Like, this to me, it felt like a goodbye movie. Scorsese's goodbye to the genre. And he could come out tomorrow and be like, guess what, guys? I just bought this book about Scarface. And it's like, oh, shit, okay. We're watching another Scorsese gangster movie.
Another gangster film, yeah.
But yeah, as of right now, it feels like this is his goodbye. The actual movie itself is a very solid movie. It's 3.5 hours on Netflix, which is kind of funny because I think Scorsese was one of the first opponents of Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, and then he ends up signing with them.
What can you do?
But like Wolf of Wall Street, it's just a movie about a character who, it's like a rise and fall. His classic, hubris, pride cometh before the fall. And it's really the main trio, Pacino, De Niro, Pesci. It's three of them at their peak. Like, it's three of them at their the best, at least close to the best that they've ever been in their careers, which is saying a lot for the amount of classic movies that the three of them have been in over the years.
Well, I think it just goes to show how comfortable they are in those type of roles.
Yeah. And with each
Playing
other.
characters like those.
Pacino and De Niro have been in, 4 movies with Scorsese? 5 movies with Scorsese?
Yeah.
I mean, not Pacino and De Niro. De Niro and Pesci, sorry. Pacino has never worked with Scorsese, which I was very surprised about. The three of them together, they play off each other so well. And like Wolf of Wall Street, it's kind of like watching vignettes for 3.5 hours and seeing this character kind of go up through the ranks and get older and, eventually have to say goodbye to his friends. I really enjoyed it. If you like a Scorsese movie, it's a good watch. I think it's maybe a step below, Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street, but I think it's still pretty solid. It's also really nice to see De Niro in good movies again.
Yeah, I mean, that was partially what I was saying about him being comfortable in that role.
Yeah,
not him doing comedies. Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of people that grew up with De Niro and seeing him in all these shitty movies, it's refreshing to see him, in the moment, watching him in a good movie.
Do you feel like it would have been as popular or well received if it hadn't been released on Netflix?
Honestly, probably not. But I think it was on Netflix because Scorsese wanted it to be 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think if it was on any other studio, they probably cut it out. And when you cut out, because I mean, every scene in this movie needs to be in this movie, and so I think any other studio would have probably been like, can we get that to like 2:45, and it just wouldn't have been the same movie, in my opinion.
And what are your thoughts on because I know I haven't seen it, but I've heard the special effects and the maybe minor spoiler, but the way they age the characters and age the actors.
It's definitely not as good as people think it is. Yeah, it's not very good. The problem with the de-aging is that the actors are still old.
Yeah.
So like,
I remember somebody saying that.
They were like when a character punches another character, like one of them three, when it punches another character or kicks another character, it doesn't look like they're supposed to be like 40 or 50. It looks like they're 70 when they kick.
Yeah, I remember one of the first things I ever heard about the Irishman was they make Robert De Niro look young, but he still walks like an old man.
Yeah. They try to make him look young, but he still had wrinkles. Like, what? What 30-year-old man has wrinkles? It was funny because Pesci calls... this is back when this is in the younger... the younger part. But when they're both younger. But Pesci calls De Niro a kid. Because we're trying to... I think we're trying to show that, he's like 30s. In his 30s. And Pesci's in his 50s or something. And it's like, no. You guys are both in your 80s.
That's pretty funny.
It doesn't work at all. But what can you do? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
The 9th Tarantino film. 9 out of 10.
We're only going to get one more. It went into this movie with only knowing the log line. I think the only thing I knew about it was a stunt actor and his stuntman lived next to Sharon Tate. And I was like, I'm in. I'm in. Who's the stuntman? Who's the actor? It's like Leo's the actor. I was like, I'm in. Give it to me. I went in watching no trailers. I didn't watch any of that special featurettes. And I'm glad I did because this movie is as kind of conceited and arrogant as it can seem. It is a love letter to the old Hollywood, right? The old 60s Hollywood.
Well, old 60s Hollywood was also full of conceited and arrogant people.
Almost like Hollywood
like
nowadays.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But I think it is I was surprised on how empathetic it is about, not giving up and, always trying to hold on to your dreams. And like, that just kind of spoke to me. And it was also super funny, which, saying the Tarantino film is super funny is kind of... whatever. Everybody thinks
at least in my
Tarantino movies
opinion,
funny.
he has his... his films can be pretty funny, I would say.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like it shouldn't be a noticeable thing because Tarantino always has funny scripts, but this.
Oh, but it's funnier than
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like a comedy.
Yeah. How would you rank this in terms of his other films?
Oh, dude, it's up there.
Yeah.
It's up there. I think it's top two, but it's not. It's top two and it ain't two. Is what I was trying to say. No, I'm just. It's probably like I would say it's top two. It's between this one or Pulp Fiction for me.
Pulp Fiction is probably most people's number one.
Yeah, and I was surprised on how. He came out and said this is Pulp Fiction, or somebody came out and was like, "This is Pulp Fiction with Hollywood." And I was like, anytime I hear, this movie's this movie, but it's set in this time period. It's like, this is gonna be a crap movie, but it is very much like Pulp Fiction. It's like a small little story that doesn't really have a huge stakes. Like it doesn't have huge stakes to it, but it's still very compelling narrative, and it's an enjoyable watch. And it also has Al Pacino.
Yeah, it has. I think Quentin Tarantino is one of those guys who can just go grocery shopping for whatever actor he wants to work with
At this point in his career, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone just wants to work with him. Tarantino is such an interesting director because it's hard to talk about him having like I almost feel like there are no points in his career. Like when we were talking about Sam Mendes, we were like, he had a dip and now he has a good, he's in a good point in his career. I feel like Tarantino is one of those guys who it's like from Inglourious Bastards onward, he's just consistently been one of the most original. That's exactly what just the word I would say. One of the most original people.
Yeah.
Writing and directing movies.
He makes the movies he wants to make. He's not trying to tie like certain themes or motifs or elements of whatever. He just goes out and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make a movie about a slave, and then I'm gonna go make a movie about Germans, and then I'm gonna go make a movie about an failing actor. It shouldn't work because most directors kind of have that interweaving theme in all of their works. But for a guy like Tarantino, who is so eclectic with his movies, it somehow works, and that just shows the talent that he has written mainly as a screenwriter.
Yeah, mainly as a screenwriter for sure.
Like my favorite thing about Tarantino, and I think this is, if anything, this is what he does better than most directors, is if you have two characters in a room or in a car or at a restaurant, just having them talk, he does that better than anybody else. It's so compelling, but we get so much narrative and exposition without it, we say like with Nolan, where it's like kind of we're listening to a bot read a manuscript sometimes with Nolan's movies. Tarantino, while it's it's somewhat Shakespearean in the way he writes his dialogue, it feels like this is how characters would talk and interact and with one another and with the world around them. And that's what I love about Tarantino. And that's why I love this movie and Pulp Fiction, is because in essence these are movies about nothing. They're just characters talking for 2 hours at a time. And there are some stakes, people die and whatever, but
whatever.
It's not the end of the world or anything like that.
He does really good like covert character studies.
And that's exactly what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is. Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that if you are not a screenwriter, writing normal conversation between two characters and making it interesting is probably the most difficult thing in the entire world, because everyone thinks they can do it, and it is like you get the freaking like Attack of the Clones where he's like, I hate sand. Like, it is so difficult to do well. It's like Tarantino and Patty Chayefsky who influenced Tarantino, and that's it. What I think is the most impressive thing about Tarantino, and this is again something that I can not even think of very many directors who are similar in this regard. But the fact that he can, you know how there are directors who have styles, like Nolan has a style, even Sam Mendes has a style.
Yeah.
And they make certain types of films. Tarantino has a style, but the type of film he makes is different every time. And that is not a lot of directors are like that. Like, the fact that his style translates so well to so many genres and themes and characters is just a one-of-a-kind thing.
Yeah, I think the only other director we
Really?
can say that for is probably Spielberg.
Spielberg, yeah. And I was
Or
thinking
Spielberg
Kubrick
was-
as well.
Spielberg and Kubrick is another good one where they're just always, going to different genres. Like Kubrick was making horror movies, thrillers, and then he was making black comedies, and then he was making sci-fi movies. Tarantino's the same way. He made a movie about what is it? But what are they in? Not Jackie Brown. Reservoir Dogs. What are they in Reservoir Dogs?
They're like thieves,
bank robbers, right?
bank robbers, yeah.
Yeah, we go from bank robbers to
Assassins,
hitmen,
to like
to ninjas,
Nazis, yeah.
to Nazis, and it works every time. And this is a director who's willing to take risks. And like we said with Christopher Nolan, I especially like when directors take risks and want you to actually, kind of use a little brain power when you're watching.
Be engaged.
Yeah, and to kind of be out of your comfort zone of what you would normally watch.
That being said, Tarantino is not my favorite director, but regardless.
This also might be Leonardo DiCaprio's best performance.
Compared to what?
Titanic.
Titanic?
No, I'm just kidding.
Aviator was the first one that came to my mind, but if you want to go with Titanic, sure.
I haven't seen Aviator, so I can't speak on that one. But of DiCaprio's, this might be his best work, in my opinion. This movie also suffers a little bit from Brad Pittism.
And I also think that this is another example of a film where the length of it and for the content of it, they were they were very forgiving. Audiences as well were very much like this film was actually very popular, despite the fact that it was very long and about spoiler, murder.
Yeah, did you watch this, right?
I have not.
Ooh, okay. I won't spoil it then.
I know what it's about, but
No, I know you know what it's. Well, okay. Yeah.
I know it's one of those films where it's like, you know what it's about, but do you know what it's about? Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. Jojo Rabbit. Can we talk about Jojo Rabbit?
I also have not seen Jojo Rabbit, so
Oh
talk
my
as long
god,
as you
this is
want.
gonna be a whole hour about me. That's alright.
You love this movie.
I adore this movie.
Why?
It's so. No movie has made me gone from a wide range of emotion in such a short amount of time. I think this is only hour and 40 minutes. So in an hour and 40 minutes, I went from laughing to being depressed to just being sad to like, and then I was, hopeful and scared, and then I was happy at the end of it. No movie has ever done that to me. And
how does this movie make you feel that way? How does it get those emotions out of you?
I think it's all Watiti, man. I think it's his directing and his writing, especially because he wrote the thing. He won the Oscar for, I think, best adapted screenplay. Yeah, best adapted.
Yeah. And his acting, would you say his
he's absurd as Hitler. But I think that's kind of the point. It's actually funny because I think he's either half Jewish or full Jewish or something like that. So Hitler being played as a Jew is kind of it's funny. But it also tells a story of, how easy it was for the German youth at the time to be brainwashed to thinking that, Jews were evil. And I think that was an important story to tell. Something like that is how easy it is to hate and how hard it is to learn to unhate.
How did you think the kid did? Because child actors are not easy to direct.
Yeah, they're notoriously bad. He's good. I think he's really good for a child actor, at least. I don't think he's not better than Sam Rockwell. That's for sure. But no, I really liked the acting in this movie was really phenomenal. I think again, this is Watiti knowing what he wants from each character and getting the most from his actors. Sam Rockwell plays this absurd German officer. It really works very well. Sam Rockwell is also just a phenomenal actor. Scarlett Johansson, she was nominated
she plays
for
the mom, right?
Yeah, she was nominated for 2 awards. This one is for Best Supporting Actress. She's also nominated for Best Actress in Marriage Story. So she pulled the rare double nom this year.
Dude, imagine if she won both. That would have been pretty cool.
That would have been I don't think they would have done that to her, but yeah, I think this movie does a really good job of drawing you in. Because when somebody gave me the log line of it, they were like, it's about Hitler. I was like, what? I was like, that makes no sense. Like I went into this movie somewhat blind. They're like, yeah, it's about the Nazis. It's supposed to be like a funny take on the Nazis. I was like, oh, cool. I like funny takes on Nazis. So I watched it. And, in the first half hour or so, it's funny. It's a funny film, and it's supposed to draw you in as like this black comedy. And then it just gives you a complete tonal shift, and you're like, whoa. And it works. It's super seamless in its shift. Yeah, I don't think a movie's ever done that to me, where it's made me feel so many emotions in such a short time. Really phenomenal work. Really, it's really good. If you haven't watched Jojo Rabbit, I know the name sounds kind of dumb, but that's what I thought. I was like, Jojo Rabbit. I'm not watching a movie called Jojo Rabbit. That's so stupid. But no, it's phenomenal work. It's really well done.
Yeah,
and I can't give it enough praise for how well it done.
I would even just Taika Waititi himself. He's one of those guys who was probably in danger of being a franchise director because he did Marvel movies.
He did
he did Thor films.
I think this movie came out. I think he made a good choice in coming out and being like, no, I'm actually really good at what I do. Because I was in that boat too, where I was like, is he a good director or is he a friend? Like, I've heard people talk about his movies, but all he's done is Marvel movies recently. But he just blew me out the park with this, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna shut up. So yeah, good movie. We kind of mentioned it a little earlier. Marriage Story. I'm going more into my honorable mentions, but I just wanted to talk about Marriage Story real quick. Did you watch this one? Is that a no?
That's a no. This was the year where I maybe it was because of the pandemic, but
this was before the pandemic, man.
Okay, look. Nevertheless, this was definitely a year where I was really behind.
That's fair.
For me, it was Parasite and Ford versus Ferrari, and that was it for most of the year. But I'll say this. Noah Baumbach is a really good director. He directs. He has a problem. His problem is that he directs a lot of movies.
He's in the Spielberg.
He's in the kind of Spielberg and the Scorsese category, so he's very hit or miss. But he has a lot of really good movies.
So some of his works, Kicking and Screaming,
which is a good film. I'll throw that out there.
Oh shoot! I thought this was the Will Ferrell one. My bad.
It is not the Will Ferrell movie. No.
Ted, edit this out. Ted. Yeah, Noah Baumbach. He's I've never actually seen any of his films prior to this one, so I can't
Kicking and Screaming, The Squid and the Whale, Francis Ha, and Greenberg. Those are all good films. Yeah,
so a little Marriage Story. It has a lot of flaws. I'll admit that, and it feels kind of over dramatic at times. Have you seen that main argument scene that they put on
Yeah,
YouTube?
I've seen that. Yeah, that's become a meme.
Everybody's always hyped that up, and and I think that's why it took me so long to watch this movie, was because everybody was hyping this up as like, oh my god, this scene is amazing. It's okay. It's not. It's okay. It's a little dramatic, and I think it feels like it's written.
Melodramatic. Would you say it's melodramatic?
It feels like it's written for the theater, more than it is written for the screen. Which kind of makes sense because Adam Driver's character is a theater director.
Well, not only that, but Noah Baumbach. Not that he's done theater, but he is a very character and dialogue heavy writer.
Yeah. This is a very dialogue heavy movie.
What would you say are the film's strengths?
It is really well acted. It's, I feel that as Driver and Johansson are their characters. Now, them as a couple is not believable whatsoever, and maybe that helps this movie because they're, spoiler, they're divorcing.
Yeah. A marriage story should have been called a divorce story.
Yeah, my friend was actually like, "Man, that's such a cynical title." I was like, "Yeah, I know." But yeah, I think Driver and Johansson are really well in this movie. I also like that it kind of delves into like the gritty details of what goes through a divorce. I'm not trying to spoil it too much for you, but
It's honestly, I think it's one of those films where the title is so obviously ironic that you know how it's gonna end.
Well, I mean, yeah, they get divorced. Everybody, I mean, yeah, but the way they get divorced and seeing their it's almost like watching like a phoenix. Like a phoenix bursts into flames and then it regrows.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that, and it shows. This movie really does do a good job of showing, the complexity of relationships and how they're not, how they can decay over time, but then we can kind of rebuild them, and vice versa. How, they start out strong and then they just die, and they will always die, and they'll stay dead. So it definitely shows that complexity and just a toll divorce really takes. This was actually based on one of his divorces, I believe.
Yeah,
I think he was divorcing Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think Lee. He was divorcing her.
Interesting.
I was actually doing so when I was doing my research for this. So he wrote this based off of his divorce from Lee, right? Jason Lee.
Yeah.
And he cheated on her with Greta Gerwig, which I thought was really, really interesting. Which is crazy. Which is, it's in the film because, there's a post-marital affair in the film. But I thought that was super crazy.
Huh.
And then apparently he showed the movie to Gerwig, and I was like, "Dude, you're dropping the ball." When I read that, I was like, "What are you doing? This movie's about her. You don't show her the movie."
That's true.
What's wrong with you, man? But yeah, I thought it was an honorable mention just because it had so many nominations. It's not my favorite movie of the year. It's probably not even top 5. Moving on a little bit though, just to kind of speed things up. Knives Out. Have you seen Knives Out?
That is the Rian Johnson movie, right?
Yes. It had a couple noms. Good little whodunit. I was really surprised by.
Definitely one of those movies where it's like you think you know what it's about, but you don't know what it's about.
Yeah, it's a good wholesome movie. It's not. I don't want to say wholesome, like
wholesome, but like surprisingly.
It's a good story, but it's a very solid movie. I think. Toy Story 4, best animated feature.
You said you're winner. Mention this. You know what's hilarious? We didn't mention the Toy Story sequels last episode. We were talking about sequels and reboots and stuff like that. Everyone will hate Pixar for their sequels except for the Toy Story
sequel. Story. Yeah. Cars 2 has problems. Monsters University has problems. But everybody loves Toy Story sequels. I actually think Toy Story 4 is better than Toy Story 3.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a low bar to pass, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's really well. I think it's it's a good goodbye to second goodbye.
Yeah. A good second goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me really emotional, which is crazy. I guess because we've kind of grown up with these characters since what 1998, 1999.
Dude, the quality of the animation made me emotional.
God, yeah, just seeing the fabric woven through Woody, I was like, holy shit, this is good. Ford versus Ferrari, another solid movie.
Another solid movie.
Yeah.
I am a huge racing sports fan, so like just the fact that a movie about 24 hours of Le Mans would be made is insane, and I love that. And James Mangold, who did James Mangold did 3:10 to Yuma and Logan. So he's a fantastic director in my opinion as well. He makes a particular kind of film. But yeah, no. Just the second I heard that there was going to be a film about Le Mans, I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to see this.
Yeah, I was really excited about this movie too. This was a movie where I watched every trailer and I was like, give me more. Really well acted too. I think Bale was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And him and Damon play off each other really well. I think this is Damon's role from now on in his career. Is like, I'm just gonna play a straight edge
actor.
Yeah, I'm gonna play like a straight edge kind of guy to a more eccentric character.
I like him in his action films.
He's okay.
Yeah, nonetheless. I mean, in my opinion, this had kind of, because Christian Bale is one of those guys who he always gets in character.
Yeah.
But you can still tell it's Christian Bale, so it's really hard to see the character. So in me, it kind of suffered a bit from that Brad Pitt-ism that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But nonetheless.
I think he was nominated for... No, he wasn't. Oh, that's crazy. Mm. Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari would have been, I think, my probably like third pick to win Best Picture.
Really?
I think it was really well done. And it also was kind of a story of, family and sticking it to the man.
The kind of thing the Oscars likes.
Yeah. It's a very wholesome movie. Yeah, I really liked this. I came away very impressed. There's some parts where I'm like, is that the best, artistic choice?
It's a super long movie.
And it's also very, very long. But
although then again, it's also about a race that's 24 hours long, so I don't know. Saying the film is long is fair criticism.
True. The King on Netflix. This is like super honorable mentions. The King. It's a Shakespeare.
It gets recommended to me, and it's too much. It looks too much like a generic Netflix movie for me to want to watch it.
It is, but it's also not. It's like it's a Shakespearean. So they base the film off of Shakespeare's King Henry. So if you like Shakespearean work, it's a good. I enjoyed it. It's a good watch. I think it's one of Netflix's
Doesn't it have
better
Timothée
movies.
Chalamet in it?
It does, and that's it's whatever. Midway. Have you seen Midway?
I have not. I believe my dad saw it. He's a big World War II junkie, but
It's a good popcorn movie.
that's probably the thing. I remember him saying that he was kind of disappointed that it was, because, I mean, as of history buff himself, he's thinking that a film about Midway is going to be like, He's prepared to see historically accurate Midway and not a Roland Emmerich disaster movie. Nevertheless.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was expecting trash. So when I didn't get trash and I got like food in the sink and not straight garbage can, it was like, okay, I'm actually really impressed by this. So
That's I think it's interesting metaphor.
You liked it? I think it was every time a character opens their mouth, I want to punch the TV screen. But other than that, I'm not a big like, oh, look at these effects. But I mean, the effects are very well done in this movie.
That's what Roland Emmerich does well.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu. Can I just talk about that for like 2 minutes?
Go ahead.
Have you seen this one?
No, I did not see Detective Pikachu. As much as I love Pokemon, no.
I watched this twice in theaters on the same day.
Why? Did you see it with like two different people?
I saw it with the same guy. We were so bored that day. We were just super bored and we didn't have anything to do. It was the middle of summer. There was nothing else out. So we went to watch it in the morning. We went to watch it like at 1. And then we hung out. We got some food. We were just walking around. And then we were like, you want to go watch it again? We were like, it was like 9 o'clock. And we were like, yeah, why not? So we had to go watch it again.
Oh my God.
It's kind of funny, though, because when we went to go watch it in the afternoon, it was all kids. And we were the oldest people there. And then we went at night. We were probably the youngest people there.
That's hilarious.
It was so weird, the dynamic change. I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would enjoy it that much. But, I mean, obviously I enjoyed it. I watched it twice in theaters. I just thought it was a worthy watch. Any movies from 2019 that you...
Crap. I'm not prepared. I barely watched anything.
I'm going to give you some
in
dishonorable
2019.
mentions real quick.
All right, give me the dishonorable.
While you prepare. Hellboy. We were talking about Hellboy last week.
Yes.
Absolutely
I don't even have
trash.
to
I
see
actually
that
watched
to
that
agree
movie.
with
I can't
you.
believe I actually watched it. Heard bad things about Terminator Dark Fate. I'm kind of done with the Terminator franchise.
There
I thought
should
it was
have
gonna
been
be
2
good.
films and that was it.
I thought it was going to be good because, James Cameron was coming back, Linda Hamilton was coming back, and then I saw the first trailer and I was like, this is trash. X-Men Dark Phoenix, trash.
Hey, the comics are amazing. Read the comics instead. I can attest to that.
Star
But
Wars,
Yeah, no, the film was probably trash. Which Star Wars was it?
Rise of Skywalker. Gotta mention that one.
Trash. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No.
I actually read the synopsis of it and I was like, damn, I'm glad I saved $6 to watch this movie because that's a waste. John Wick Chapter 3.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. John
Yeah.
Wick is one of those series where I'm so scared for them to like mess it up every time because the first one was so good
And then they don't.
and each sequel I'm like, don't be bad, please keep this quality.
Yeah. So
Chapter 3 was okay.
it was okay. I wish they would have ended it, but it's whatever. So yeah, that's... do you have any?
Okay, yes. I have 3 films to talk about.
Go for
Just
it.
my honorable mentions for 2019. I want to start with Us by Jordan Peele.
You like that one?
Directed by Jordan Peele. I did not mind it, yeah.
I didn't like it as much as Get Out. That it was a
I
little
liked
weak.
it. Weak, I can see, yeah, but nonetheless, I think I like it because I want to see more films, more kind of weird and interesting and independent horror films like this. This is the kind of thing I want to see more of.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the next film I want to bring up as an honorable mention is Midsummer.
I started watching that one. I got bored.
It's a long film.
I
Hereditary
was
is
like,
not as long.
Yeah,
but,
I clicked on the link on Amazon. It said 2 hours and 30 minutes. I was like, what horror movie should be 2 hours and 20 minutes?
The Shining would like a word with you.
Okay, but that's Kubrick. That's different. Yeah, I got an
I
hour
liked-
into it and I turned it off and went to bed. I was like, this is...
wow.
I couldn't get into it. Maybe I'll rewatch
No,
it.
I like. This style of horror film is the kind of stuff I really like.
Where it's like
Us and Midsummer, I think, were really good.
yeah, it's kind of creeps you out. Gives you the,
Yeah, I
the
like stuff like that.
heebie-jeebies.
And then, how could we forget Uncut Gems?
Yes. That's another...
The Safdie brothers saving cinema once again.
That's just straight anxiety for... What is it, like 2 hours?
So like 2.5 hours, yeah.
It is straight up just inject as much insulin as you can into my body. Give me a shot of Red Bull, and then like I don't even know. It's the definition
so
of balls to the walls.
Yeah, seriously.
But it's good. It's good. And it when it finally ends, you can kind of breathe.
Oh yeah, it is like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just killing it every time. They're 3 for 3 in my opinion. The Safdie brothers.
Adam Sandler showing us once again that he can make good movies.
Dude, okay. This was the redemption arc that Adam Sandler needed.
He never needed a redemption arc. I
He
don't understand why
spent
people
10
don't.
years getting made fun of for grown-ups.
Because guess what? He's making bank.
Seriously, yeah.
People were always like, "Oh, why doesn't Adam Sandler make good movies?" It's like, because he doesn't need to. People will watch his movies anyways. The
Yeah.
dude just wants to have fun on set, making millions of dollars with his homies.
But I think I talked about this a very long time ago. Oh, I talked about it with Robin Williams. I'm a sucker for comedians doing serious movies. Like,
Yeah,
I just think
showing
they're
their
good every
range.
single time. Yeah. And Adam Sandler just, if this film won the Palme d'Or, he would have accepted the award.
But yeah, that's 2019. In retrospect, I think a very, very solid year. I think 2013 was also a very, very solid year.
Yes, indeed.
This was fun. This was good. We should do this. We should go back and look at more years. I already have like 6 years I
Yeah.
could go back and look at.
Dude, we should start a podcast. This is a good idea.
We're gonna start 2 podcasts on the same
my
feed. Could you
No.
imagine? You watch anything cool past week since we talked?
I rewatched Lone Survivor and 12 Years a Slave. Those are both amazing films.
Yeah, nice.
By all means, I would recommend those. Any of the honorable mentions that I brought up, those are, except for Spring Breakers, probably all good movies.
You're telling me you don't want to see Vanessa Hudgens in a bikini?
I'm telling you, I don't want to see James Franco play Riff Raff.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, so you're a motorsports fan, huh?
Woo woo.
I've been watching that series on F1.
Oh,
On,
Drive to Survive.
Yeah, dude, I'm into F1 now.
Nice.
Like I think I'm going in. I think I'm full. I woke up to catch the end of where were we at last week? Portugal.
Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. I
They
caught
were
the end of Portugal.
Dude, nice.
I was a little disappointed because it was such a boring race, but I'm getting into F1, man. I'm like watching YouTube videos of like top 10 teammate moments where they fight each other in the room, and
Hell
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, why did they do that?
Hell yeah. Dude,
Lot
we're
of
going to start a
drama.
second podcast and it's just going to be Formula 1.
Just talking about I am down. It is, yeah, Formula 1's fun. If you guys are somewhat into sports, even if you're not into sports, because Formula 1 is so different, watch at least 3 episodes of Drive to Survive. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
And then if you ever feel like waking up early on a Sunday, watch a race.
Yeah, this week we're in, where are we at? We're in, we're not in Europe, right?
I believe we are. We're in the Spanish, so Barcelona, Catalonia.
Oh, yeah, we are. Oh, so it goes, Monaco's in a couple weeks. Sorry. I thought we were in Monaco. I was like, what
No.
the hell?
Oh,
Okay,
you
yeah,
wanna
so
talk
we're
about
in-
a boring race.
We're in
Anyway.
Spain, and then we're in Monaco. Cool. Yeah, I'm down.
Hey, if you want a good Formula One movie, watch Grand Prix. There you go. That's my recommendation.
I started watching
Grand
Rush
Prix. Rush, yeah. That is
with Niki Lauda and James Hunt.
Yes, and it's directed by Ron Howard, who.
I think I watched the
it's pretty
first
good.
30 minutes, and then I fell asleep. So I need to go
those
back
are
and watch it.
2 good movies for sure. But this isn't the Formula One podcast. What are we doing? Just do the outro already, Isaac.
Okay. So yeah, that is our discussion on our favorite years in film. 2013 and 2019. Two of the biggest of the decade. I would say that for sure. I think the 2 biggest of the decade.
Definitely up there. They were definitely years.
Yeah, good years. So if you are not doing anything because we're in a pandemic, you're probably not. Go ahead and look back at 2013, 2019. Go watch some of those movies. Those are really, I don't think we have any, besides Spring Breakers. I don't think we have a
Yes.
movie that we would say don't go watch that we've talked
Well,
about today.
Our entire dishonorable mentions.
And yeah, I guess the dishonorable mentions. I didn't name any dishonorable mentions because, actually I did. I'm fucking up this whole outro. Tim, cut that out.
Thank you guys for thank you guys
Anyways,
for
thank you
listening.
guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. You guys have a wonderful night. We'll talk to you next week, and yeah, let the big list go.